Hey guys, this is Devon at the Ryu-Kin Pro Shop. I'm going to show you how to make a hook stop for the lures we rigged up, skirted. Now we just need a hook set. Alright guys, we're going to talk about the materials you'll need for this to get yourself a hook set for the lure you're making. Find out which hook you need. Black Bart's on their website, they have a recommended hook size for each lure. In this case, we have a size 10 hook recommended, so we grab a size 10 hook. You need some shrink tubing. Go ahead and grab yourself some copper crimps, 3 of them you'll need, and some chafe tubing to go over the wire we're about to use. You will need some wire, steel braid. It doesn't matter what size you use, they all have a recommended size. So if you have that, use it. So let's get started. First step, we need to cut this skirt down to the spec it needs to be. This lure is recommended to be skirted from the top of the head to the bottom at 14 inches. So we'll go ahead and do that. I have this ruler I use, and I'll just set that right at the top of the lure. And you see we're sitting at 15 inches, so we gotta take off just an inch to be right where we need to be. So what we'll do is take that inch off. And I usually cut this, when I cut these, I cut them at a V going down. Just preference, if you want to cut straight across, you can. I like to leave a little extra on there. Just go ahead and cut that. I cut it at a V like that because the majority of it will be sitting at the recommended 14. While the rest of it tapers right down. And it's all preference. So we got that all measured up, how the Black Bart website recommends. Now what I will do is, I'll get our wire, I'll take our hook, and usually how I set this up for myself, I'll set that right where I want it to sit. Actually just above right where you want it to sit when you finish this all up, and I'll show you why. So I'll set that just above the skirt. It's not sticking out of the skirt yet. I'll set that just above. What I'll do is I'll take some wire and I butt that up right to the hook stop, that black piece on the bottom of the lure. I'll show you what that looks like real quick. This right here is a Black Bart hook stop. It's just a rubber stopper that your hook set will sink into that. With the leader we connect to it. So I'll set that hook back up, get everything straightened out, set it where I want it, take this wire, and I'll butt that up right to it. Kind of give me an idea. When I measure it to the eye, right here at the eye of the hook, where I'm not cutting a whole bunch of extra. I got just enough to use. Alright, so once we got that measured up, I'll go ahead and cut where I want to cut. Get yourself some nice wire cutters. Alright, so now we got our piece of wire cut. Now we're ready to start making it. What I'll do is I'll take that first black crimp, just kind of feed it on there the best I can without making any burrs. So just take your time and it'll come out just how you want it. Put that chafe tubing on there. What I'll do is pull a little extra out so it's easier to fold it over, and I'll feed that through the other side of that crimp. Nice and easy. My goal here is to get, I'd say, just about half a crimp's worth of a tag end sticking out there, and I'll show you why I do that. So I got my tag end side and the main side. I'm going to slide this chafe tubing to the tag end side, tiny side. I'm gonna pinch it the best I can with my fingers, and I'm gonna slide the rest of that all the way through, just like that. We're gonna go over to the bench press. press it down and then move on to the next step. I pinch this side nice and tight so it don't slip on me. I'll go ahead and get her crimped down just how I want. Just like that. And you see that tag side is just about half a crimp's worth. And you'll see why we butt another crimp right up to there, getting everything nice and snug at the very end. I'll show you. Alright, so next step, go ahead and take your two crimps, two last ones, slide them straight on there, just like that. Second one going on, just like that. Next, take your hook, recommended hook that Black Bart recommends. We got a size 10, 10/0. Slide that on there, just like that. What I'll do is, I butt that piece we just crimped. I butt that straight up to that black hook stop that I showed you at the beginning there. And I'll touch it on there. I'll push this lure if I need to. But I'll butt it right up to it. I'll straighten the rest of the skirt out. And what this will do is give me an idea about right where my hook's gonna sit. So right about there. And what I'll do is, now I got it butted up, I see where my hook's gonna sit. And I like that. What I'm gonna do, keep it nice and tight, pinch it. I will just fold this over, just like that. What that does, it leaves a nice memory in that wire. It's got a bend in it. That's right where my hook's gonna end up sitting. Next step, take that tag end, feed it through that first crimp, just like this. And I'll just pinch where I made that bend. I'll pinch it nice and tight. I'll slide that crimp down as far as I can get it. Just like that. So nothing's crimped yet, just slid it down, making this hook nice and tight. Alright, so now that you got that nice and butted up towards the bottom there, now go ahead and crimp this piece closest to the hook. We already crimped this one at the top. Crimp the one on the bottom closest to the hook. Same exact thing, set it in here. Get it nice and crimp. I like that. Alright, what I'll do is, now I feed this tag piece here the best I can without messing up. I don't want any burrs. You don't want any burrs at this piece here or this cut here. It just makes things a little more difficult at the end. What you want to do is now feed this, your tag piece, through that last crimp. We haven't crimped this one, so feed it through. Just like that. Now we got it on there. What I do is twist it up while I slide this crimp up. I twist that whole crimp, and what it gives me is a nice spiral going up there. I'll see where I need to cut it, get an idea of where I need to cut it. I back that crimp back off, so untwist it. Keep it marked where you want to cut. Cut it, size it up, give it a twist as you go back up. Get everything lined up the best you can and start sliding that crimp over that tag end we made at the very beginning. So we'll slide that crimp and we'll butt it up straight over that half a crimp's worth tag we made at the very beginning. And I'll butt it right up next to the first one. And it'll look like that right before we crimp it. Nice and straight, stiff. Those tag ends are now covered up and not exposed. You don't have any burrs sticking out. You can potentially catch a line or break something. So we don't want that. We want to cover it up. And that's the purpose of that last crimp, just to keep everything nice and secured from backing off. We'll go ahead and grab that press again. We'll finish it up by crimping that last piece. Just like that. nice and straight. Got it all finished up, looks good, I like that. Nice and straight, stiff, I can work with that. Last step is your shrink tubing. You can feed it over this way. Sometimes you can feed it over the hook side. Just know if you feed it over the hook side, try your best not to cut into this, it'll rip. Once you go to heat it up, that tiny hole you make in it, it'll just expand. So what I'll do is I'll feed it over the top here, and I'll do that by using something just to spray inside of here, just like this. Just kind of get it wet. You'll see it slides over nice and easy. And the purpose of this is just to cover up this hook and keep it just a bit more stiff there, right at the hook set. What I'll do is I'll set this shrink tubing just above this bottom crimp here. I'll set it maybe half a crimp's worth like we talked about before up here. I'll set that just above there and then let it come down the shank of the hook, just like that. If you have a heat gun, so we got one in the shop, we'll sit here and we'll heat shrink this. So that's the next step. Get it nice and straight, heat shrinked and wrapped up and finished. So I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. The purpose, you just want to get it nice and straight, heat shrink, and get it both sides closed up. Alright, so we just hit it with the heat gun. We got everything nice and straightened, lined up, nice and tight, looks good. What I'll do is I'll just to verify everything, put that back on the hook stop there. Straighten the lure out. Back on that hook stop. That's where a hook will sit. Once we get the leader through, that whole hook set will come back about ½ an inch or so. So you'll see we put another chafe tubing leader here, and it'll push it back another ½ an inch. So I'll slide that, and that right about there is exactly where a hook set's gonna sit after everything's rigged up and done. It'll sit there in the skirt, just like that. When you make these hook sets, you can make them to your own preference. If you want your hook sitting out in the skirt a little bit, you want it nice and tucked up, you can build it just a little shorter. Just know every time you make your hook set here, it's always going to move just a little bit further due to the leader and the other chafe tubing you put on there. It's gonna move about ½ an inch worth every time. So keep that in mind when you're building these. Otherwise you'll build it and it'll always come out longer than you intended. So I always build mine to compensate for that. And that's what it looks like from start to finish.